Hi, my name is Abigail. I currently 35 years old, but the story I about to tell you took place 2 years ago when I was still married to my low-life husband. And subsequently, still in the presence of my horrid mother-in-law who mistreated me constantly. This is the story of how I finally grew a backbone and got my revenge. I remember that day so vividly. I was already anxious about the hosting I would have to do, as my mother-in-law was making one of her customary visits for coffee. I was already feeling anxious, and my husband wasn't making me feel better when he said, "Babe, I don't think that this is working."
What do you mean, honey?
Yeah. I just don't feel like you're listening to me, even after I give you the simplest instructions. This isn't going to work. I'm so sorry.
There was silence. I was anticipating those 2 words that were going to completely shatter me into an irreparable mess. "It's over." Those words were ringing in my head over and over and over again. I was almost begging him to just outright say it. Rip off the band-aid, so to speak. That's how much anticipating those words that would have felt like daggers.
I don't think that this tablecloth is going to work for when my mom comes to town. I told you to get the blue floral set, not the yellow one. Why don't you ever listen to me?
You know when you love someone but you just want to strangle them? Yeah, this was me at the time, except I felt that love dissipating after every tiresome hour of living with my low-life husband. My husband had a funny way of toying with me. Some might even call it sadistic, but I just call it cruel. He would keep me on my toes, always on the edge of an anxiety attack, with his empty attempts of leaving me. He would do this knowing that unfortunately, without him, I would be nothing. I, in my early 20s, made the stupid decision to forgo my dreams of becoming a cafe owner. I had it all planned out. The theme would be warm chestnut with an inviting ambiance, and the small, quaint place would always smell freshly baked brownies and freshly brewed coffee. It was my dream to earn enough money to actualize this fantasy.
And my husband, then boyfriend, with whom I was madly in love, was supportive of this idea. Or at least I thought he was. You see, whenever I would tell him about my passion, he would share my elated tone with me. But he would quickly follow up with some suggestions, so to speak. Hey, yeah, that sounds great. Or we could opt for a simple lifestyle, you know? I always dreamt of living in the suburbs and coming home to freshly cooked meals every day. We would live in a big house with 3 kids and 2 dogs. One big one, one small one. And you wouldn't have to worry about lifting a finger. All you'd have to do is take care of the kids.
All you have to do is take care of the house, the kids, and me, of course. God, why I ever found such a statement endearing or charming beats me. Looking back at it now, I believe that I was bamboozled, folks tricked and hoodwinked into believing that this man had any pure intentions when he said those words. I'll admit, my less than well-developed prefrontal cortex saw this behavior as cute. And once I heard that I was going to live a soft life in a big home with 3 kids and 2 dogs, one big one, one small one, I was sold. I loved the bakery idea with all of my heart, but I didn't realize that James was slowly chipping away at my independence and turning me into his obedient slave that would answer his every beck and call. I'm 33 now, and I realize I married a low-life man-child who still depends on his mommy for very basic things. Speaking of his mommy, this is the story of how I killed 2 birds with 1 stone and exacted my revenge on the 2 people who made my life a living hell for about a decade. Because believe me when I say that the apple didn't fall far from the tree when it comes to James and my mother-in-law.
I am so sorry, James. I completely forgot that you wanted the blue floral set. I've just been so busy trying to prepare the house for when she comes into town. It completely slipped my mind. I'm so sorry.
Whatever. It's fine. I don't expect you to know much about these things anyways. I mean, you didn't even finish college for God's sake. That stung, I'll admit. I was unable to finish college due to some financial reasons, and honestly, with my head full of those dreams of becoming a cafe owner, college was the least of my worries. Additionally, James had told me that finishing college was a complete waste of time since I'd be at home too busy with household duties. He said I shouldn't worry about it and that I should just focus on being a good housewife in training. And again, I fell for his words. He just always had a way of convincing me to go along with his plan.
You're right, James. I'm so sorry for everything. What can I do to make this up to you?
Well, nothing now, I guess. Just make sure everything is ready and do it quickly. Mom will be home soon, and I don't want you to embarrass me this time around.
I'm sorry, James. I promise I won't do anything of the sort. Be seen and not heard, right? I remember. I'll be good, I promise. As you can probably tell from my responses, my self-esteem was completely shot. I had no self-love whatsoever, and I was always believing the evil insults that James and his mother would hurl at me. As you can imagine, being belittled and degraded for approximately 10 years takes a toll on the psyche. You start believing what becomes commonplace practice. That fateful day, I finished setting up the table and waited patiently to greet my mother-in-law at the door. I was scared of James, but let me tell you, I was terrified of my mother-in-law. She was just like James, except subtler, more conniving. She would manipulate you into believing she was on your side, but in the next second, she'd betray you without so much as batting an eye. Nonetheless, I stood frigid, with the fakest and hugest smile plastered onto my face, representing completely the epitome of the stereotypical, traditional 50s housewife. My husband wanted a pristine, robotic-like Barbie doll to serve him, and at that moment I realized that he got exactly what he wanted. This epiphany that I had was ill-timed, as at that moment I was snapped back into reality with the shrill voice of my mother-in-law, accompanied by her long and lacquered nails snapping at me, begging for my attention and snapping me out of my trance.
I swear to God she's deaf. This one. Where did you find her, my sweet boy?
Honestly, I don't know, Mom, but I guess I'm stuck with her.
How unfortunate.
I quickly resumed my role as the obedient and docile slave. I mean, years of conditioning will do that to you. And I proceeded to welcome my mother-in-law into the pristine conditions of my home.
Ugh, what is that pungent smell? It smells awful, Abigail. Please tell me what that is.
It's just the apple pie that I've been baking for today's tea time. I tried a new recipe. God, why?
Before I could answer, James interjected abruptly.
I think she just thinks that she could still be a baker.
Both James and my mother-in-law started cackling profusely. I was just glad that my children weren't home to see me endure this. I deliberately left them at my sister's house whenever the Wicked Witch would bless us with her presence. She would often ask to see her grandbabies, but I'd always come up with the excuse that they were at dance or football practice. It was during intense moments like these that I was particularly grateful for the love that I had for my children. Even though I didn't have it for myself, I adored my babies, and I would never want to subject them to the cruel and harsh realities of their father and their grandmother. The reason why I was so grateful for this is that I could feel the stinging in my eyes and the hoarseness in my throat. I'm sure that my demeanor began to slip as I heard my mother-in-law say,
Are you serious about crying, Abigail? It's just some light-hearted humor. Honestly, grow up. You have 3 children, for God's sake. Imagine if they saw you right now. Pull yourself together, woman. Speaking of those angels, where are they?
Speaking of those angels, where are they? Oh well, you know, Miss Adams was unwell yesterday, so she moved dance practice to today, and the kids couldn't miss it because the dance recital is coming up so soon. With a disgruntled sigh, she accepted the excuse and proceeded into our lavish dining room where the event would take place. Phew, another bullet dodged, and thank God I didn't burst into tears at that moment. I quickly ran to the kitchen to check on my apparently disgusting pie, but when I took it out of the oven, I was enveloped by the most pleasant smell. I reveled in that sweet and succulent smell, and for a moment I was transported to what appeared to be another dimension. I imagined what my life could have been like, running around in my small, warm, and inviting cafe, ringing up orders for loyal customers and newbies alike, and something funny would be happening between the patrons, and we'd all giggle in unison at their fun. And the cafe would be filled with laughter and the sound of people click-clacking away at their computers as they find inspiration in this quaint space for whatever it is that they're writing. Maybe it was a new screenplay for the local theater, or a dark romance novel, or an article on the good news to share with the world. Unfortunately, My daydreaming season was cut short by the heavy thuds of my husband, skulking into the kitchen with a face full of discontent. I just wanted to make sure everything is ready. You're taking longer than expected. Remember what I said about embarrassing me, Abigail? Annoyed and irritated by his incessant need for something at all times, I responded by telling him that everything was almost ready and that he shouldn't worry. Perhaps it was the euphoria that I was feeling from my interrupted daydreaming session. I oftentimes escaped into my head when the days were getting particularly stressful. I believe it kept me sane all of those years, but I was feeling particularly brave. Despite being ridiculed just moments earlier about my baking, I wanted to share something. I battled the idea in my head for some time, fighting against the urge to blurt out my desire. And in a rare moment of clarity and joy, I overcame the demons that sought to muffle my voice. Just as James was leaving the kitchen to return to his mother, I blurted out, "I want to try my new coffee recipe." The heavy footsteps stopped dead in their tracks, and my heart dropped simultaneously, realizing what I'd done. I began to berate myself mentally, verbally abusing myself to ready myself for the very real and very scary words that were about to tumble out of my husband's mouth. To my surprise, he marched right up to me, got in my face, and whispered angrily, "I swear to God, if you mention that atrocious thing again, you will regret it." "I make the coffee. Got it?" I nodded profusely, agreeing.
What? Are you being serious?
James's bewildered look was all of the confirmation I needed. My mother-in-law was indeed being serious.
Yes, Abigail, I don't joke all the time. I think you could have made a name for yourself.
My eyes began to well up. I mean, this was all of the encouragement I needed. For such a long time, my dream was snuffed out, but now there appeared to be a glimmer of hope.
Honestly, it's not even too late. You could start your business. We will help you.
I swear to God, I must have been hallucinating because this simply couldn't be real. Could it be that the people who have made my life miserable for the past 10 years have finally changed? Suddenly that budding confidence and courage began to spring up again. And this time it seemed clear that I didn't need to hold back. I decided to say, actually, I was planning on serving you all a new coffee brew and recipe today. My eyes immediately darted to James, whose glare seared into my soul, but at that moment, I completely didn't care. My mother-in-law's eyes widened with surprise.
Really? James, why didn't you tell me that she wanted to make us a nice cup of coffee?
Because she wasn't supposed to.
Nonsense. You must bring it at once.
Mom, are you being serious?
Of course I'm being serious. Why would I joke about this?
Well, because we always make fun of her.
There was a pause, and my mother-in-law stared intently at James, her face turning red, and after some seconds of deep silence, she burst out laughing completely.
Oh my goodness, I almost got you there, didn't I?
Mom, what? Oh, now I see. You really got me.
These two began cackling like little schoolgirls, and I was left stunned at that table. At that table, not believing what just happened to me. My head was pounding. My heart was hurting. How could she make such a cruel and unnecessary joke? I simply couldn't take it any longer. I ran into the kitchen, barely holding myself together. In the distance, I could hear James say, "Oh, look what you've done now." She's crying. As much as this sounded like he cared, he said it in such a malicious and sadistic tone that I was choking up when I got to the kitchen door. I closed it behind me, heaving and sobbing while trying to regulate my breathing, but it was no use. The damage had been done. I began pacing in the kitchen. This had gone far enough. I wasn't interested in crying anymore. I was filled with absolute rage and ferocity. My anger was so hot that my tears streamed down my face in an attempt to cool the boiling heat that was rising within me. I had to do something. One thing, even if it was the smallest thing ever, I had to get my revenge. At that moment, as if it was fate, the coffee maker was done brewing the coffee, and my head snapped toward that direction. That was it. That was how I was going to get my revenge. I should also point out that my mother-in-law and James had a special china set that they would use for occasions such as these, but I was subject to using a basic mug. I saw them laid out on the kitchen counter, two beautiful cups, one tinted with baby pink and the other with pistachio green, next to a dull gray mug. The coffee maker was running, and from the looks of it, It looked to be almost complete. Sulking, I trudged towards the cups to begin to pour the coffee when I noticed something in my designated mug. I took a closer look, and wouldn't you know it, I saw what appeared to be chili sitting at the bottom of my mug. That's so strange. What are these chili flakes doing in my mug? I inspected the cup further, and I realized at that moment that James, and probably my mother-in-law, was trying to play a cruel trick on me. Once again I began to seethe, wondering just when the torment would end. At the same time, however, I was relieved to have caught this beforehand. But at this point, I didn't know what to do. I could just throw out the chili flakes and drink my coffee and enjoy the look of confusion and disappointment that would be displayed across James's face. But I needed to do something more, and then it hit me. I frantically poured the contents of my cup into a pink-tinted cup and began to fill the individual cups with the ready coffee. At that moment, I heard heavy footsteps coming towards the door almost frantically. He must have remembered that he left his stupid prank out in the open, and since I was in here, he must have thought that I would see. But he was too slow. Just as he was opening the door, I finished pouring the coffee into the remaining cups.
What are you doing?
I swished around to meet a very angry-looking James, but my beaming and bright smile was juxtaposed against that.
The coffee was done, so I decided to pour it into the individual mugs.
Oh, I see. Thanks, he murmured.
There was a brief silence, and it appeared, even if it was for a moment, that a look of sadness darted across James's face. Unfortunately, it was so brief that I might have imagined the whole thing, because he quickly turned back into his old, monstrous self and began to bellow some more.
You better not have tampered with the coffee. I told you, no one wants to try your disgusting creations. That's why my mom did that brilliant prank on you.
He began to snicker all over again, and he walked up to me to receive the tray. He grabbed it from my hands, turned around, and began to walk back towards the dining room. But he stopped at the door, and he sounded slightly panicked when he said, "Abigail, did you notice anything particularly different with the cups when they were laid out?"
Oh no, not at all. Why?
Oh no, nothing.
I began to follow behind him, not wanting to miss the debacle that was about to ensue. My anger and sadness began to dissipate, and it was replaced with complete schadenfreude as I awaited what was about to unfold. I sat down at the table, and my mother-in-law noticed the very alarming shift from being on the verge of tears moments earlier to being somewhat chipper. I simply couldn't contain my excitement.
Abigail, darling, are you all right?
Oh, I've never been better.
Oh, okay.
At this point, both James and his mother were suspicious of my behavior, so I had to tone it down. James and my mother-in-law began to add sugar and syrup to their respective cups, and I was waiting patiently for my turn to add sugar to my cup, as well as keeping an eye open for everyone's reaction to what was about to happen. I watched as my mother-in-law put her pink-tinted cup to her lips and let the chaos ensue. She took one big swig, big mistake, and her face re-emerged, twisting and contorting in disgust.
James, what's wrong with this coffee?
What do you mean, Mom?
It tastes awful, and what is... Oh my goodness. My goodness.
My mother-in-law's face got redder and redder. It looked like she was swelling up, honestly. Her tongue was out, panting like a dog, and she was tearing up.
Why on earth is my coffee hot? Is coffee supposed to be hot?
No, Mom, it's supposed to be hot.
No, my tongue is on fire.
My mother-in-law stood up from the table, pacing around frantically and crying about how painful it was. Some of you might call me sadistic, but honestly, I reveled in that agony. And don't worry, it wasn't too bad. Everyone needs a little spice in their lives. At this point, James gets up to try and calm his mother down, but she was gunning for the milk and glugging it all down. With both of them baffled about what just happened, I decided to take action.
Oh, James, silly me, completely forgot. I did see something different in the mugs.
I noticed that my mug had some flavor enhancers, and as much as I appreciate you kindly adding them to my cup, without my permission or consent for that matter, I simply did not want them. But I thought that maybe, just maybe, your mother would enjoy them much more than I would, and so I decided to dump the contents into her cup instead. I hope you enjoy the coffee. It's my special blend. Both of them were looking at me with utter hatred and disgust.
You worthless, hopeless, slimy little ingrate.
Somehow, even though my mother-in-law was yelling at me and James looked like he wanted to snap my head off, I was completely fine. I think my body and spirit at that point were completely drained of any empathy and love to give to people who made it their daily mission for the past 10 years to inconvenience me and make my life miserable. It was time that I got my revenge, and honestly, it felt so good. Of course, both James and my mother-in-law were hurling insults at me, but as I mentioned, I was quite calm during all of this. I calmly stood up, headed up to my bedroom, packed an overnight bag for myself and my children, and proceeded to walk to the door. As I tried walking back downstairs to face the mess, I was reminded of just how miserable it truly looked. My mother-in-law was trying her best to soothe her sore tongue, and James was looking very afraid, a face that I have had for a long time. The irony didn't miss me, trust me. I approached the scene and took a deep breath.
You two have made it your mission to destroy my life for the past 10 years.
I endured your petty comments and downright narcissistic and manipulative behavior, but enough is enough. I have more worth in my big toe than both of you have combined. I'm officially done with you, James, and I'm gonna stay with my sister until I have everything figured out. And of course I'm taking the kids. Have the day in life that you think you deserve. Goodbye. And with that, I managed to march outside of the house with my head held high, leaving the debacle behind me. And subsequently tuning out the hurtful words they were spewing, all while I was gathering my things and leaving. I'll admit, during the drive to pick up my kids, I broke down. My emotions were the purest form of bittersweet. Feeling such a conflicting array of emotions was quite overwhelming. I was happy because my spirit was finally at ease. I left a very toxic household that I could no longer endure. Additionally, I was also obviously upset because the realities of the situation began to dawn on me. What if she presses charges? Is she okay? Maybe I went a bit too far, but I pushed those thoughts away. She was a grown woman, and honestly, she just needed some milk to deal with the pain. Well, you might be wondering what the aftermath looked like. Let me tell you, the way my life has been changed for the better is quite miraculous, and dare I say impossible. But every day, I am grateful for the position I am in. After that debacle, I stayed at my sister's house with the kids for a couple of nights, all the while avoiding calls from James and my mother-in-law. I was not ready to speak with them. Eventually, though, I did have to face the music, and I returned to the home that held so much pain for such a long time, and James and I sat down to have a discussion. Just as you'd expect, after figuring out what type of person James is, he proceeded to blame everything on me, saying that the reason why I was so unhappy was that I didn't get to fulfill my dream, a dream that he snuffed, by the way, and that I was taking out my frustrations unfairly on him and his mother. I, with my newfound strength, interjected, rejecting his pitiful attempts at gaslighting me into believing that I was the problem. My mother-in-law eventually emerged from a nearby room, approaching me angrily, but I calmly informed her that if she hadn't made my life a living hell, as well as birthing the literal spawn of Satan, she wouldn't have gone through what she went through. Karma is real. I would say I'm sorry, but I'm not. I do hope you find peace with yourselves and stop being such angry and vicious people, but honestly, I highly doubt anything will change. 2 months down the line, I filed for divorce, and because of the years of evidence that showcased the emotional abuse I went through, I got full custody of the kids. I started dating again, and I eventually found a genuinely kind-hearted man who treated me like a queen and treated my children like his own. It also didn't hurt that he was rich, and he was all for supporting me in my unfulfilled dreams. 2 years later, I was married to a beautiful man in an even bigger and lovelier home with my beautiful children and 3 dogs, as well as my cafe called Chestnut, right down the street from where we lived. I honestly couldn't be happier, and the last I heard of James is that he got a DUI, as well as some other small charges for disorderly conduct and inappropriate public behaviors. Let's just say that people do not want to do business with someone who has a tainted record like that, and so his businesses started crumbling. In regards to my ex-mother-in-law, I'm sure she's avoiding all Chile as much as possible. He defended her when we reached back. Now she's regretting it. Hello there, I'm Naomi, and I'm 32 years old. I have a 5-year-old son named Freddie, and he is the light of my world. Unfortunately, it turns out the same cannot be said for his dad and grandma's, as I have a harrowing story to tell that still sends chills down my spine to this day. I never thought that I'd have a story like this to share, but here goes. A few years ago, my husband and I went on a trip to visit his family in Canada. I was excited to see his mother, as I hadn't seen her since our wedding approximately 5 years prior. But I had no idea what was in store for me. For some reason, it appeared as though my mother-in-law wasn't able or willing to visit us. I would ask why she wouldn't come, and she'd always respond with a pressing work-related emergency that prevented her from visiting. For 5 years of his life, my beautiful son hadn't seen his grandmother from his dad's side, and it was a worry of mine.
Mommy, when will I get to see Grandma?
Soon, my dove, soon.
I had to bite the bullet and decided that we as a family should just go up there and visit, even though it made more sense for her to travel down, since the majority of the family, even the extended family, stay here in Florida. Nonetheless, I really wanted Freddie to know who his grandma was, so we made the trip. Once we arrived, we were greeted by a very grim and stern-looking Becky, even though that was her character. A no-nonsense type of woman, it was shocking to see that she bore little to no emotion to see her grandson for the first time.
Hello, Grandma. I'm Freddie, and I'm your grandson.
Oh, hello, little one. I hope you had a good flight.
That's it? Was she crazy? It's like she would combust at the slightest show of affection and compassion. Freddie, being the innocent and pure ball of light and love he was confused at the rejection. He wasn't used to this type of treatment. Nonetheless, because he is loved and is a positive boy, he still maintained hope that a relationship could be formed.
Hey, Mom.
Hello, son. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Let's go home. I'm freezing. Can't believe I forgot how cold Canada could get.
You should move back up here. It's better than Florida.
I don't think we can. We have so much down there. It would just be impossible.
But you can work remotely, right? And honestly, you shouldn't even be working. You should retire and rest, Becky. Why not move down to Florida and be closer to us?
And be closer to all the half-naked hooligans and miscreants? No, I'm fine here in my cold and cool weather.
Cold and cool were understatements. We were practically freezing. I made sure to bundle up Freddie in as many layers as possible. He'd never really been in contact with this level of coldness in his life, so I was extremely worried. But for whatever reason, his grandma was obsessed with the cold, so much so that on the second day of our stay in Canada, she said this at the breakfast nook.
Let's go for a walk.
A walk? In this weather?
Wasn't there a forecast for a blizzard later on today?
What's a blizzard, Daddy?
It's a cold snowstorm that's windy and very scary.
Oh, no.
Right, very scary. I don't think we can do that, Becky.
Oh, come on. If you keep calling him a baby, he's gonna grow up to be a wuss. You have to show him the harsh nature of reality.
He's 5 years old, and it's a blizzard, Becky. I don't think that argument applies here.
Really? You want to disrespect me in my home?
No, not at all. I didn't mean to disrespect you. I'm sorry if you're offended. I just think that...
Okay, good. So we can go then?
Mom, I don't think it's a good idea.
It's to your favorite spot, Jack. Remember behind the rock, near the waterfall?
Really? The last time I was there, I was probably 5 years old.
You see, how momentous would it be to show your son, who is the exact same age as you were all those years ago, one of your favorite spots in Canada? You do have a point.
Plus, we're 2 experts in Canadian weather, and we'll make sure everything is okay. So please don't worry, Naomi. We can do this.
Only if you're sure. Because I don't know anything about this, and obviously Freddie doesn't either. So please, let's remember to stay close.
Yeah, of course. Don't worry.
We began our trek towards the supposed favorite spot. How someone could enjoy this cold weather this much. Maybe it's because I'm a Floridian, but I would rather skip out on the debilitating coldness of this place. Regardless, I had to make sure that Freddie was enjoying himself. and the only reason why we continued to do this was that every time she saw his face, it was lit up with joy and amazement at what he was witnessing. At some point, though, I began to feel tired, and I could tell that Freddy was tired too, but he didn't want to complain because he wanted to bond as much as possible with his grandma. Along the way, we passed an old-looking cabin with puffs of smoke coming out of it.
Like a cabin.
Yes, sweetie, it's a cabin. Guys, is it okay if we stop and rest for a while? Perhaps the people in the cabin would be willing to house us for a while. We are in Canada, after all. You Canadians are super nice.
Perhaps the people in the cabin would be willing to house us for a while? We are in Canada, after all. You Canadians are super nice.
That's not funny, and it's actually a bit derogatory to insinuate that all of us are kind.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was making a joke. I didn't realize it was in poor taste.
Yeah, well, it seems as though you don't know a lot of things you do are in poor taste. How rude.
We continued along the path, getting warier by the minute. I carried Freddy, and his added weight wasn't helping me in my alertness. Off in the distance, I could see Jack and Becky moving with speed. I called out to them, telling them to slow down.
Oh, come on, you slowpokes. I'm 65 and I'm better than you two. Hurry up.
As I mentioned earlier, we don't do this often.
Hurry up. You're gonna miss the best part.
What? I can't hear you. Please slow down.
At this point, Jack and Becky appeared to have disappeared. The snow was getting worse, and it seemed like the aforementioned snowstorm was about to hit us. All around us was just white. Freddy began to cry, and I was getting extremely worried. The cold wind howled through the seemingly empty forest, whipping snow into my eyes and stinging my skin. I held my son tightly against my chest, trying to shield him from the biting cold as we trudged through the knee-deep snow, searching for any signs of help. Hours had passed since Jack and Becky had left us stranded in the middle of nowhere, miles away from the nearest town or shelter. She had taken my husband with her, leaving me and my son to fend for ourselves in the freezing wilderness. I was furious with her and my husband, but more than that, I was terrified for my son's safety.
Mommy, it's so cold. I want to go home.
I know, my baby. I'm so sorry about all of this. I promise you I'm gonna find help for us. Okay? Don't you worry one bit.
As we stumbled through the snowdrifts, I could feel my body growing weaker by the minute. I knew that we couldn't survive out here for much longer, and finding a place for safety was the top priority. But just when I thought that all hope was lost, a faint light appeared in the distance. We stumbled towards it, half blind and half frozen, until we finally reached a small cabin from before. With its puffs of smoke still billowing in the harsh wind, nestled in a clearing. With what little strength I had left, I knocked on the door as hard as I could, and then slumped into it.
Now who could... Oh, Harold, get some boiling water and some blankets right now.
A kindly old couple took us in. They were so gracious as to allow us to remove our frozen clothes, have us bathe in the water they drew for us, and sit us by the fire, with a fresh pair of clothes, and gave us hot soup and blankets to wrap ourselves in. As we huddled together in the warmth, my anger and frustration began to boil over.
How could they? How could they do that? I hope they freeze out there.
There are more people out there. We have to go and get them.
No, don't bother. It's my good-for-nothing mother-in-law and husband. They left us out there to freeze.
You tell a lie? Why do such an awful thing?
I knew that Becky was always like this, but Jack? No way he would do that to us.
Hang on a second. Becky? That name sounds familiar. Is she the lady with a slim frame, very tight-lipped and serious all the time? Does she wear purple glasses and a mole on her upper lip?
The very one. How do you know her?
She usually treks throughout these parts, but such an odd thing to do during this time when snowstorms are plentiful. As a matter of fact, I've never seen her around here during this time of the year. How peculiar. Now, sweetheart, please tell us how you know her.
I'm her daughter-in-law. We came to visit from Florida because she hadn't seen her grandchild, Freddy, ever since he was born. I really wanted for them to bond and get to know each other, but she seemed disinterested, even after we came all this way. Freddy was nestled with me, fast asleep in my arms, with a smile on his face. Thank God he made it. Thank God he was safe. How his little body survived, all of that still remains a wonder to me to this day.
But the more I looked at him, the more frustrated I grew at his useless father and grandmother.
How could she not come down to visit that baby? He's gorgeous. It brings tears to our eyes, knowing that this happened. You see, we don't have any children of our own. We couldn't bear any children, so we decided to come out here and live on the mountaintops. It's the life that we've always wanted, but we just can't fill the missing gaps in our hearts. So to hear that someone privileged enough to have such a beautiful grandchild has chosen to be complacent is something that we cannot forgive. You know, I've always had a strange feeling about Becky. I've told you this, Harold. That woman is not all right in the head.
I called out to them, telling them to wait for us, but they just kept going ahead. They could hear me, but they were choosing not to listen. Why would they do that?
Sometimes we don't know why people do the evil stuff they do. All we can do is do the best that we can do.
We spent the rest of the evening conversing, and as much as I was still fuming, an overwhelming sense of relief washed over me because I knew that Freddie and I were safe. Morning came, and it appeared as though the blizzard subsided. I searched various websites to find that weather reports stated that it was now safe to maneuver through the town and city. I exchanged contact information with Georgina and Harold, thanking them for all of the love and care they showed us.
There's no need to thank us. We just did the right thing. Anybody with half a heart would have done the same thing.
Please let me escort you back to your home.
Harold and Georgina accompanied us to the place of residence, and lo and behold, we found Jack and Becky sitting comfortably on the front porch, as if Freddie and I were on death's door the day before. I got out of the car and began to lose it.
What the hell is wrong with you people? How could you leave us there?
You were slowing us down and we wanted to see the frozen waterfall.
Are you serious? Freddie could have died last night. Do you care about that, Jack?
To be fair, you could have just stayed home if you really weren't ready to go on this adventure.
I swear to God, at that moment, my vision turned red. I was ready to attack, kick, scream, and yell for the whole world to hear just how awful and sick these people were. Not only did they leave us out there, they appeared to have zero remorse for what they did. It was almost as if they were trying to kill us. Before I could launch a whole slew of actions and words that couldn't be taken back, Harold held me back, telling me to compose myself as Freddie was still in the car with Georgina. Witnessing all of this go down, it took a moment for me to calm myself. But even though I had calmed down, I was still aggressive and argumentative.
You left us there. We could have died, Jack. Do you care about that?
Don't be dramatic, Naomi. She wasn't trying to do that. Look, the reason why we didn't come back for you is because we knew that you would find help and shelter. I mean, you pointed out that cabin, right? It looks like you got the help you needed. No thanks to you or your mother.
I cannot believe what I'm hearing right now. How could you be so cold and callous to your wife? I have half a mind to come over there and knock you out.
Try it, old man. I dare you.
Enough, everyone. Don't give me a headache.
Listen, Naomi. I'm sorry that you couldn't handle a bit of the cold weather, but I swear there was no ill intention on my part.
Oh yeah, why on earth would you go trekking at this time of the year? We never see you during this time, so why now?
Why now when you have a child who only wanted to bond with you? Someone could argue that this level of gross negligence was intentional, Becky. There's no way an experienced tracker like you would travel during this time. Only experts can mess around with the weather like this. But novices like Naomi and a child like Freddie? You are a sick and twisted, pathetic individual. This seemed to dissolve Becky's cold and hard exterior as she looked panged, at least for a moment, before returning to her wicked Witch of the West exterior. This seemed to dissolve Becky's cold and hard exterior as she looked at me, at least for a moment, before returning to her wicked Witch of the West exterior.
I don't know what you're trying to insinuate, but if you're looking for a battle, I can assure you that you'll lose.
You forget that I'm a rich woman. I have access to the best of the best. Let's see how your little argument is going to go in court, old man.
You two are sick, and I never want to see you again. I hope you rot in hell.
You know what, Naomi? I don't care anymore. I don't care about putting up this front to you and everyone.
So let me lay it straight for everyone to hear. I don't care about you and that baby. Honestly, I wish the both of you did die yesterday. At least this way, you'd stop pestering me about trying to meet that baby. Do I look like I care? I made my move to her, as if my body had a mind of its own. I walked up to her and slapped her. I continued to slap and kick as much as I could, before being ripped off of her by both Jack and Harold.
Naomi, how dare you?
How dare I? How dare you sit there and defend this witch? She had it coming.
I'll sue you. How dare you put your hands on me?
She obviously didn't mean that. Look, it seems like tensions are high right now. Why don't we all take a deep breath? Let's all come inside and sort this out.
You are a weak and pathetic man, and I hope you spend the rest of your life atoning for what you did to your son. Before Jack could respond, I spat squarely in his face before heading inside, getting both Freddy and his belongings, and getting into the car with Georgina and Freddy.
Mommy, I'm scared. What's happening? Why did you fight Grandma?
Sweetie, I'm so sorry you had to see that. Things are a lot complicated here.
And I don't want to lie to you, but I'm afraid you're a bit too young to understand. But for now, I'm so sorry to tell you that it seems like Grandma and Daddy don't want us here. We can't be here because Daddy and Grandma aren't very nice people. And I don't want you to be around people who aren't nice. But Georgina and Harold are nice people, aren't they?
Yes, I love Georgina and Harold. Can Georgina and Harold be my grandma and grandpa?
Oh, bless your heart, my sweet child. You're gonna make me cry. Of course, I can be your grandma. I'll always be your friend, and I promise to take care of you if you need me to.
Harold got in the car and drove us to a hotel, where we got some time to rest and recuperate. But unfortunately, the whole ordeal was just a bit much to handle. I was very fearful for the future of both Freddy and me, as this meant divorce. Just because of how powerful and influential Jack and Becky were, I was scared that they would end up getting custody of Freddy. I decided to talk to Georgina and Harold about it once Freddy was fast asleep.
What am I gonna do? I'm gonna go to jail. What am I gonna do? Am I gonna jail?
Nonsense. That hag won't press charges.
But what if she does?
She won't, because we have evidence of her conspiracy to commit murder.
We always come prepared, sweetie.
Now you can take this recording with you and use it against your husband and mother-in-law in court.
You guys are angels in disguise. How did you even, when, how?
Shush, my child. Don't worry about all that. Just listen to the audio recording.
We sat and listened, and sure enough, the whole ordeal had indeed been recorded, including the part where I physically attacked her.
Now they'll get me for physical assault. But God, why did I do that?
Now you listen here, my child. You did what any loving mother would have done.
You're a mama bear and you simply protected your child. Honestly, I wish that Harold and Jack didn't stop you. I knew you would have taught her a good lesson. But the thing is, if you did beat her up properly, her scars and wounds would have healed. You have to hit her where it hurts, her money. You have to sue her for everything she has, get a divorce from that man, and flee with all of that money.
But the recording, you could clearly hear me hitting her.
What are you talking about?
Just then, Harold selected the audio clip section of my attack and deleted it.
I don't hear anything of you fighting someone, and I certainly don't hear anyone threatening to take you to court.
I was overwhelmed. I was so grateful for these people. I swear that they were indeed my guardian angels, all the while ignoring calls and texts from Jack and Becky alike. I think they were trying to do some damage control. I don't know why it took them this long to realize what they did was wrong, but I didn't care. It was too late for sorry, and let me explain. When I got home, I began to construct my case against my mother-in-law and Jack. I got the best lawyer I could find with the money I had, and we presented this case. Thankfully, even though it took some time, I managed to win the lawsuit against her. She paid me a settlement of $1 million, and I was beyond shocked that I was able to get that much money out of her. It didn't help that she was sending me death threats as we were fighting this battle. As for Jack, we obviously got divorced, And because of the part that he had to play for gross negligence, he too had to pay me some money on top of the already devised alimony and child support that he was meant to pay. With this influx of funds, I was able to restart my life. I opened a daycare near my home and began a booming business. I named it Georgina's Playhouse. I also managed to fly Georgina and Harold out to Florida to celebrate once all of the settlements were finalized.
Cheers to a new life for Naomi and Freddie.
Here's here.
Cheers.
Cheers, Grandma and Grandpa. I love you guys.
Not only did I get rid of toxic cancer that was my ex-mother-in-law and ex-husband, I gained a lot of money and love from the right sources. People. Georgina and Harold are even entertaining the idea of moving down to Florida. They've been in Canada their whole lives. Maybe they needed a bit of sun and warmth for a change. Regardless, I'm very grateful for this new chapter in my life. Sent him a selfie with Mother. He started crying on the phone. I am Olive and I am 30 years old. My husband Walter is 35, and he has been working overseas for the past year. I was left behind in our home country, working a job I hated and struggling to make ends meet. The plan was for Walter to send money back home each month to support me and our families, more specifically his mother, Linda. Initially, the decision to financially support his mother was a decision we made together. I was more than happy to take care of Linda in his absence. I loved that woman. But soon, things took a turn for the worse. Instead of only sending her money once in a while, as was initially agreed upon, Walter started demanding that I send money to her every single month to support her. At first, even though I had slight reservations, I didn't complain about it. After all, Linda was family, and I was happy to help. But as time went on, and as life and work got harder, sending money to Linda every month was becoming a challenge. When I told him that we couldn't afford to keep paying her every month, he would normally berate me, brush it off, and accuse me of being selfish and lazy. Growing up, I was always taught to be a good wife, to support my husband no matter what, and to always put my family first. But my resolve, as you can probably imagine, was slowly dissolving. I didn't care for the blatant rudeness and disrespect, but unfortunately, I wasn't the type of girl who was taught to stand up for herself and demand to be treated the way that I deserve, with respect and kindness. So because I was unable to send over the money for some months, Walter would find out, and he would call me and shout at me, telling me how I was a terrible wife and daughter-in-law for not supporting his mother. Even though Linda was okay with not receiving money every month, understanding how hard it was to juggle life and expenses, Walter was acting like I wasn't doing the best I could. One day, he even bashed me over the phone, telling me that I was useless and that I didn't care about his family.
Hello, Walter.
How are you?
I'm not doing so well, Walter.
Why? What's wrong?
It's about the money you keep asking me to send to your mother.
What about it?
You keep getting angry when I can't send it every month. You bashed me over the phone the other day, and I'm still upset over it.
Well, if you would just send the money on time, I wouldn't have to get angry, would I?
But I can't always send it on time, Walter. I have bills to pay and other responsibilities.
Responsibilities? What responsibilities could be more important than taking care of my mother?
I have a life too, Walter, and I can't keep living like this, always worrying about your mother's finances.
I can't believe you would say that. You're my wife, Olive. Taking care of my family should be your top priority.
And what about me, Walter? Don't I matter? Don't my feelings matter?
Of course you matter, Olive. But right now, my mother needs our help.
I need your help too, Walter. I need you to understand how I'm feeling and to support me.
And that was when it hit me. My husband, the man I loved and trusted, had betrayed me. He had put his mother's needs above mine and had made me feel like I wasn't good enough. But I wouldn't let him get away with it. I would seek revenge and make him pay for what he had done to me. As I struggled with my emotions, I couldn't help but feel a sense of betrayal. I had always supported Walter through thick and thin, but now it felt like he had turned against me. I couldn't help but wonder if he had always felt this way, if he had always put his mother's needs above mine. But as I sat there stewing in my anger and frustration, a new feeling began to emerge: determination. I knew that I couldn't let Walter get away with treating me this way. I needed to take action, seek revenge, and make him pay for what he had done to me. At first, I wasn't sure how to go about it. I had never been the type of person to seek revenge, plot, and scheme, and manipulate those around me. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I had no choice. I needed to stand up for myself, to show Walter that he couldn't treat me this way and get away with it. And so I began to plan. I researched ways to get back at him, to make him feel the same pain and humiliation that he had inflicted upon me. I reached out to old friends and allies, people who could help me with my quest for revenge. And slowly but surely, I began to feel a sense of purpose, of direction that I had never felt before. Looking back on that time in my life, I can't help but feel grateful for the experience. It was a difficult and painful journey, but it taught me so much about myself, about what I was capable of, and about the importance of standing up for oneself. And now, as I prepare to enact my revenge upon Walter, I know that I am stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever before. As I began to plan my revenge, I knew that I couldn't do it alone. I needed allies, people who could help me in my mission to take down Walter. And so I turned to Linda, my mother-in-law. Linda and I had always had a close relationship. She was kind, sweet, and loving, and she always appreciated everything I did for her. But I had never told her about the abuse that Walter had been inflicting upon me. I was ashamed and embarrassed and didn't want to cause any tension between her and her son.
Hello, Linda. I have something important to tell you, but it's quite hard.
What is it, honey?
It's about Walter. He's been treating me terribly. He's been bashing me for not sending monthly allowance to you, and it's been taking a toll on me.
I can't take it anymore. Linda's eyes widened in shock and concern.
Oh, my dear, I had no idea. Why didn't you tell me?
I was afraid that it would hurt our relationship, but now I need your help. I need allies, people who can help me take down Walter and make him pay for what he's done to me. Linda nodded, her expression firm and resolute.
You have my full support, Olive. We will do whatever it takes to make things right. But first I need more context.
I began to relay more details about the fight that we had earlier, and as I got deeper and deeper into the story, Linda's eyes got wider and wider. She also got quite angry to find out that my husband, Walter, was treating me in such a horrid way. She was also slightly upset with me, as I didn't come to her with this information earlier. I apologized, and we cried together and consoled each other about our circumstances. As I delved deeper into the subject of verbal and emotional abuse that is happening, I realized that I had been foolish to keep it all a secret. Linda was more than happy to support me in any way she could, and she was outraged at the way Walter had been treating me.
Of course I'll help you, my dear. I'm so sorry to hear that Walter has been treating you this way.
You don't deserve it, and I will do anything I can to help you. We need to teach that man a lesson. Over the next few weeks, Linda became my closest ally in my quest for revenge. She helped me gather information about Walter's whereabouts and habits, but perhaps more importantly, Linda provided me with the emotional support that I needed to keep going. She listened to me when I needed to vent, and she encouraged me to keep going when I felt like giving up. And for that, I will always be grateful. As I sit here now waiting for the final phase of my plan to unfold, I am filled with a sense of purpose and determination. With Linda by my side and my sights set on Walter, I know that I am capable of anything. And at the time, as I thought about the look on his face when he sees what I have in store for him, I couldn't help but smile. As Linda and I continued to plan our revenge against Walter, we knew that we needed to be smart about it. We needed to come up with a plan that would make him realize the error of his ways without causing any lasting damage to our relationships. And then one day it hit me. What if we went on vacation together, just me and Linda? We could take lots of lovely selfies and pictures and send them to Walter. It would show him that we were having a great time together and maybe make him realize that he needed to be more loving and prioritize his marriage as well as his love for his mother.
I love that idea, Olive. Let's do it. And we can make sure to take lots of pictures together to drive the point home.
Over the next few days, we planned our trip with meticulous detail. We researched the best resort, the most picturesque spots, and the most delicious restaurants. We packed our bags with the perfect outfits, and we made sure to bring plenty of sunscreen and snacks. Even though we were already complaining about money, we knew that we both needed a break, and that life wasn't just about working yourself to the bone. This vacation would kill two birds with one stone. Linda and I would get closer and closer, and we would show Walter that this was what was meant by living, not working tirelessly to make money that you'll never enjoy. And finally, the day of our trip arrived. We boarded the plane with excited anticipation, knowing that we were about to embark on a journey that would change everything. But more than that, I knew that Linda and I had forged an unbreakable bond through our shared experience. And no matter what happened next, I knew that I would always have her by my side. Linda and I decided to take a trip to Bali. We spent hours lounging on the beach, drinking cocktails, eating delicious food. It was a much-needed break from the stresses of everyday life.
I am so happy we could spend this time together, Olive. Thank you for taking me with you.
Of course, Linda, you deserve to be spoiled every once in a while.
I hope you're having a good time.
I am having a wonderful time. You're such a good daughter-in-law, Olive. You're like a second mother to me, Linda. I'm glad we could take this trip together. But remember, we have to take lots of pictures to send to Walter. I want him to see how happy we are together. I want him to realize that he's being too hard on me and that he needs to be more supportive. Let's take as many pictures as we can. Yes, let's do that. We'll make sure to take pictures of us doing fun things and enjoying ourselves. And I'll send them to him, and he'll see what he's been missing out on.
You're so smart, Olive. I'm sure he'll come around once he sees how happy we are together.
I hope so, Linda. I do. As we sat on the beach soaking up the sun and taking countless selfies, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. This was it. This was the revenge I had been waiting for. And as we sent our pictures to Walter, I knew that he was feeling the sting of his behavior. Sadly, this vacation had to be short-lived, considering our funds were low. As much as we wanted to stay and enjoy some more, we couldn't do that. As we returned from our vacation, I felt both anxious and excited to put my plan into action. Walter had no idea what was coming, and I couldn't wait to see his reaction. When I arrived home, I immediately set my plan in motion. I took a few more selfies with Linda, making sure to capture all the beautiful moments and the beautiful tans we got when we were on our trip. I then carefully selected the perfect photos, one where Linda and I were sitting on the beach holding hands and smiling. I knew this photo would get to Walter, and I couldn't wait to see his reaction. Are you ready to put this plan into action, girl? I was born ready. He needs to be humbled.
That's the spirit. Now send him those pictures.
I sent that picture to Walter, and I waited for him to see it. He saw it almost immediately, but there was no response. I proceeded to bombard him with many photos and videos we took on that trip, and that's when he called me.
What the hell is this? Why did you send me this picture of you and my mother? I tried to remain calm as I replied.
Well, Walter, I just wanted to remind you that I am your wife, and I deserve to be treated with respect. You've been bashing me for not sending money to your mother every month. But what about me? What about our marriage? Don't I deserve some attention too?
Okay, but why are you taking pictures with my mother?
Because there is enough space for the both of us to thrive and enjoy life.
Mom, when did you get here?
I was with Olive way before we took that trip to Bali.
Bali? Do you know how expensive vacationing is?
It's ridiculous, right? I wish we stayed longer. Now you listen here. I don't like the way you've been treating Olive.
You told her?
Of course she told me, and I'm extremely angry and disappointed with you. I didn't raise you like this. Why are you treating your wife like she's the dirt underneath your shoe when she's the one who's holding down the fort back home? What if she just decided to up and leave and marry a wealthier man? We all know she has the looks for it. But here you are, berating her even though she's doing her best every single day.
I told you to stop sending me allowance money months ago. I really don't need that much. When you were sending the money, I thought that you were good for it. I didn't know you two were struggling. And here you are making it worse for your wife when you need to be supporting her.
Now you better apologize for all of the stress you put her through instead of shouting at her and berating her for no good reason.
Why don't you put that same energy into working harder so that you can have more money?
Walter was silent for a few moments. This was the first time I saw him stunned and completely speechless.
And then something more shocking came about. He started to cry.
Linda and I kept silent as we heard him sob over the phone.
I'm so sorry, Olive. I didn't realize how much I was neglecting you. I've been so focused on my mother's needs that I forgot completely about yours. Please forgive me.
I understand, Walter. And honestly, your mother is right. If someone else was in my shoes, they probably would have left you by now. But I'm stuck beside you through thick and thin.
I'm afraid I won't allow you to abuse me anymore. You have to be kinder and you have to be more lenient.
I understand, Olive. I promise that my behavior will change. I will never take you for granted ever again.
We cut the call and Linda expressed how proud she was of me for standing up for myself like that. Honestly, I was shocked myself too with the way that I stood up for myself. As the weeks turned into months, the resolution of our confrontation continued to unfold. Walter made a sincere effort to mend our relationship and prove his commitment to change. He started by actively participating in our conversations, asking about my day, and expressing genuine interest in my thoughts and feelings. It was as if a new level of understanding had blossomed between us. We embarked on a journey of rediscovery, taking the time to communicate openly and honestly about our needs and desires. We attended couples therapy together, where we learned valuable tools to strengthen our bond and cultivate a healthier dynamic. The therapy sessions provided a safe space for us to address past wounds and heal together. In the process, I also shared with Walter the emotional toll his expectations regarding his mother's financial support had taken on me. He genuinely listened and expressed regret for the pressure he had unknowingly placed upon me. Together we established clearer boundaries and found a compromise that balanced our responsibilities to both our families and our well-being. The resolution of our conflict had a ripple effect on those around us. Linda, who had been unaware of the extent of our struggles, witnessed the transformation in our relationship with joy and relief. She praised our efforts to rebuild our connection and was grateful for the newfound harmony in our lives.
I know you two will be all right. You just hit a rough patch in the road.
But I'm glad that this situation managed to bring us closer together as mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. There aren't even enough of those healthy relationship dynamics. So going on that trip together was beautiful for us. Thanks once again, Olive.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for helping me out.
Our journey wasn't without its challenges, and there were times when doubts crept in. Lingering insecurities and the remnants of past grievances occasionally resurfaced, threatening to cast shadows over our progress. However, through open communication and a shared commitment to growth, we faced these challenges head-on, ensuring that they didn't hinder our newfound happiness. As time went on, the resolution brought a sense of closure and healing. The wounds caused by our previous conflict slowly faded, replaced by a deeper understanding and appreciation for one another. We learned from our mistakes and vowed never to take each other for granted again. The experience taught me the importance of standing up for oneself and demanding the respect and love we all deserve in a relationship. It also emphasized the power of forgiveness and the potential for growth and transformation within even the most broken of connections. In the end, our resolution wasn't solely just about revenge or proving a point. It was about rekindling the love that had initially brought us together. It was a testament to the resilience of love and the transformative power of self-reflection and personal growth. And as we moved forward together, we did so with a renewed sense of hope and a commitment to nurturing our marriage, cherishing the lessons learned along the way. I knew that my plan had worked. I had finally gotten through to Walter and made him see the importance of our relationship, and made him see the error of his ways. From that day on, he started to prioritize our marriage, and we were happier than ever before. Looking back on it now, I realized that my revenge was not about hurting Walter. It was about making him understand how his actions were affecting me and our marriage. And in the end, it all worked out. Hello everyone. My name's Margaret, and I'm a 50-year-old woman. I have a very compelling and cautionary tale to share with you, and perhaps someone can learn a thing or two from my experiences. I've been through a lot, but I'm so grateful for where I'm at right now. Growing up in a poverty-stricken community, education was a luxury I couldn't afford. My days were filled with caring for my younger siblings and cousins as my parents battled addiction. Reading and writing became secondary concerns when survival took precedence. But I never let my circumstances define me, and I strived to give my children a better life, even if I couldn't fully access it myself. My son, James, was academically gifted and determined to break the cycle of poverty. He met Whitney, a woman from a world of luxury and privilege. From the moment she entered our lives, it was evident that Whitney relished flaunting her wealth and making condescending remarks about my humble background. I endured her classist comments, believing that kindness and patience could bridge the gap between us someday. However, Whitney's insults grew increasingly personal and hurtful over time. She would mock my lack of literacy, belittling me in front of my family and friends, using it as a weapon to assert her superiority. It was especially hard to deal with, considering that James was away on a business trip for a year, leaving her and me in the same company, which subsequently meant that she could properly beat me down without him berating her for doing such an awful thing. Each time she was confronted by James, she would feign innocence, and each time I was abused, I swallowed my pride, unwilling to stoop to her level. However, Whitney's laughter intensified until it erupted into a full-blown mockery.
Tentatively, Whitney, is something wrong?
Through fits of laughter, oh Margaret, you're utterly clueless, aren't you? I set you up to fail just for my amusement.
I knew you couldn't help me with this project. I just needed to distress with a good laugh. But I didn't know that your illiteracy was this bad. How did you even name your children with a brain like that? The shock and hurt washed over me as the realization dawned that Whitney's intention all along was to humiliate me. At that moment, I made a quick decision to reach for my phone and discreetly press the record button. Uncertain of what would unfold, I wanted to capture any further hurtful words as evidence, and perhaps share it with my son, James, so he could see the truth behind Whitney's facade.
I mean, what would make you possibly think that I needed your help with anything? Especially with this literature review. Honestly, I didn't know that your illiteracy was this bad. How did you even name your children with a brain like that?
I opted to remain silent yet again, and this amused her even more.
So you can't even respond? How pathetic. Oh, you're lucky you gave birth to a smart son. Otherwise, where would you be in this life?
Still, I didn't respond. I just sat there in silence.
Ah, why aren't you responding? This isn't any fun if you don't care. Answer me. Why are you so stupid?
It took every fiber of my being to not get up and smack some sense into that girl. Where I grew up, you would never speak to your elders that way. But she seemed to not care about things like that. She just cared about who could help her level up in life. Everyone else was just a doormat.
Ah, whatever, I guess. I have to prepare for my upcoming work function anyways. Something that someone like you wouldn't be able to appreciate, what with your inability to read. It's an elite event. All of the greatest people in journalism and literature will be there. I'd invite you, but I'm afraid you'd be too confused to participate in anything. You just slow me down. It's a wonder how James was able to escape the same fate as you, huh?
Now this girl was just asking for it. But still, somehow, I remained firm in my silence, not giving her any power whatsoever. She eventually left the room huffing and puffing because I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of being hurt. She was definitely sick in the head for being this sadistic. Unbeknownst to Whitney, that recording would become a valuable tool for seeking revenge. It held the key to exposing her true character and setting in motion a plan that would shake her whole world. Once Whitney had mentioned that upcoming work function, a mischievous idea took root in my mind. I plotted to crash that very function armed with the recorded evidence of her cruelty. My intention was not to stoop to her level or seek revenge out of spite, but rather to simply shed light on the darkness that had overshadowed my interactions with her. It was time for Whitney's true colors to be unveiled, not just to me and my family, but to her colleagues and associates as well. I was going to turn her whole world upside down. The anticipation leading up to that evening was nerve-wracking, yet I felt a sense of determination coursing through my veins. With the recording safely stored on my phone, I knew I had the power to bring about a moment of reckoning. Before that night, I searched for everything I needed to know to be able to attend such a fancy event. Whitney was right. A lot of socialites in great minds would be at this function. I was a bit nervous, considering my background, but this would mean that the revenge I would get would be even sweeter. I readied myself, put on my best outfit, and walked out of my house to attend this event. Once I got inside the function, I was greeted with bright lights and flashy people. These people were fancy. Everything here looked so expensive. I was definitely feeling a bit out of place. But I was on a mission, and I was determined to do something to put this Whitney girl in her place. Suddenly, I felt a strong grip on my shoulder, forcing me to whisk myself around.
What on earth are you doing here? Are you being serious right now?
Don't make me laugh, Margaret. When I mentioned this event, it was not an invitation. Now get out of here before you embarrass me. My boss is here, and she's keeping a close eye on me. I don't need you messing anything up for me. I swear to... Whitney's surprise led me to follow her eyes to a beautiful woman making her way towards us. She was a woman who carried herself well, and you could tell that she's a very prominent figure in her field because we were the only people looking at her. It seemed like the whole room seemed to follow her. She was magnificent.
That's Harriet. She's my boss. When she gets here, do what you do best and shut your trap. Okay? I don't need you embarrassing me. That Harriet is my boss. When she gets here, do what you do best and shut your trap. Okay, I don't need you embarrassing me.
Why hello Whitney, how are you?
I'm doing quite well, thanks. And yourself? Thank you so much, once again, for the esteemed opportunity to be part of this project. I am truly humbled by...
Oh, I'm sorry. I believe we haven't met. My name is Harriet, and you are?
Oh ma'am, I'm nobody. I'm just Whitney's mother-in-law, that's all.
Ah, lovely. A pleasure to make your acquaintance.
The pleasure is all mine.
Oh, please don't mind her, Harriet. She was just leaving.
But why? The party just got started.
Wow, you're right. I never get to attend functions like this. I think I'll stay, Whitney. I've changed my mind. Is that alright?
Through gritted teeth. Oh, that's perfectly fine, Margaret. Stay as long as you'd like.
Whitney, I'm gonna need to talk to you later. So find me when the event is almost finished. Alright?
You got it, boss.
Harriet walked away to meet and greet more people. I was simply impressed with her and her demeanor. But right next to me was a seething cockroach waiting to berate me.
I told you to get out of here. And I told you to be silent. But you just can't resist embarrassing me, can you?
So you expected me to keep quiet when she was talking to me directly? Are you crazy?
Whatever. Just go home.
I'm staying.
Slightly taken aback by my assertiveness, Whitney left me alone. She stormed off to a dark corner somewhere. I chose to enjoy my time instead of being defeated by Whitney's words. I wandered around the function, appreciating the various works of literature and journalism that were presented before me. Although I wasn't doing too well with the reading, from the atmosphere of the various stalls and exhibits, I could connect with the vibes and the ambience of the stories before me. There were some powerful pieces about African and indigenous literature, and it was really beautiful to behold. But after some time, I grew bored of my surroundings. There was only so much I could achieve considering my lack of literacy skills. I stood around, not really sure what to do next until I felt someone calling my name. I whipped my head around to find Harriet behind me.
Margaret, hello?
Oh, hello, Harriet. How are you?
I'm doing well. The event is going swimmingly. I just saw you wandering around, and I wanted to make sure you're alright.
Yes, ma'am. I'm doing fine. Well, it's just that you see... Oh my goodness. I'm so embarrassed to even admit this, but I can't read all that well.
Oh, do you have eye problems?
No, it's not that. I just never learned properly. I didn't grow up in the best circumstances.
And I couldn't learn. Then I got older and I felt like the opportunity missed me.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Margaret. Did Whitney tell you anything?
Yes, well, I'm not surprised.
I hope you won't mind me asking, but what are you doing here if you can't read and write all that well?
Well, I'm here to reveal some information that I think you might be interested in knowing.
Oh?
Yes, it's about Whitney.
Oh, follow me to a quieter place.
Alright.
I followed her to a secluded area on a different floor of the building. I then began to divulge the information about Whitney and her wicked ways. I told her how she mistreated me so often due to my literacy, and that I had a recording of her disparaging me.
If I'm being honest, ma'am, I came here because I wanted people to know the real Whitney.
I think she's awful, and she can do some real damage to people's emotions. So I felt it best to at least present the evidence, so that you, her superior, would do what's best for you and this company.
Wow, Margaret. I don't know what to say. This is a lot. Please show me the recording.
I played the recording that I took on my phone, and Harriet was gasping with disbelief at everything that Whitney was saying.
This is horrible. Why would she say those things?
That's just the type of person she is, ma'am. She's always talking down on people who are beneath her.
This is truly appalling behavior. I'm honestly shocked. Come with me.
Where are we going?
To teach that brat a lesson. You know, she's always had this air of arrogance on her. She was always acting as if she knew better than anyone else, just because she comes from a powerful and wealthy family. But she's not that great. I'm so glad that someone else noticed. I knew she was a spoiled brat, but I didn't know that it was this bad. And honestly, hearing this information makes me sick to my stomach. So we're going to teach her a lesson.
We made it back to the main event, and Harriet took me to the media booth where a guy was handling the slideshows. She explained to him that there was something important to say, and that I needed to connect my phone to the speakers.
Wait, Harriet, you don't intend that I would be the one exposing her here, in front of all these people?
That's exactly what I want you to do. I simply couldn't. I told you earlier, I'm a nobody. I can't do this. That girl has been walking all over you for God knows how long. This is your moment to take your power back.
But what about your event? Won't people be disappointed with such a dramatic display? Offended?
They'll be elated to know that we're the type of company that weeds out the bad guys, and only brings on the good guys. This will be a powerful message to everyone.
This will be good press, trust me. The events that unfolded at the function were nothing short of dramatic. Clutching my phone tightly, I took the stage and grabbed the mic. People began to pay attention, and somewhere off in the distance, I saw raging eyes looking at me. Whitney was looking absolutely bewildered, and she began to make her way to the stage, but I was determined to seize this opportunity.
Attention. May I please have everyone's attention, please?
Thank you. You all don't know me, and you don't need to know me for what I'm about to say. You just need to know that as much as this is an event that celebrates reading and writing, I hope you also know that there is a significant population in this country who don't know how to read and write. And oftentimes we use these abilities to determine someone's intellect, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Recently, I encountered someone who made me feel inferior due to my inability to properly read and write. In fact, this abuse has been going on for a long while, but I've decided to stand up against this and expose this person for the vile individual they truly are. Whitney was making her way closer and closer to the stage. I smirked and maintained eye contact with her as I hit play on my phone to expose her awful words from before to the whole function. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence as Whitney's cruel laughter echoed through the speakers, exposing her true nature. Whispers and gasps rippled all through the crowd, and as I looked around, I noticed the shocked expressions on the faces of her colleagues and superiors. Whitney, who was practically at the front of the stage now, was red with embarrassment. She too was whipping her head around to see the reactions of people. The veil of sophistication and professionalism that Whitney had so carefully woven around herself was torn apart, revealing her true, ugly, and savage-like nature. This person is none other than Whitney Thatcher, the woman you see right in front of me. She's my daughter-in-law, and this is how she talks to me consistently. More gasps and whispers were circulating the space, except this time, they were more ferocious. Everyone was looking at Whitney with disgust.
I can explain.
I'm afraid that won't be necessary. I always knew that because you were a Nepo baby, you were bound to be spoiled and entitled, maybe even a little bit sassy, but downright evil. That's really low, Whitney.
Harriet got another mic and began her spiel. Folks, Margaret has raised an important point tonight, that we must treat everyone with kindness and respect.
Folks, Margaret has raised an important point tonight, that we must treat everyone with kindness and respect, regardless of where they come from and what they know. This is certainly the energy and attitude that we at Nimbles Inc. promote with fervor and purity. But unfortunately, it appears as though a member of our herd has not been upholding these standards. As such, Whitney Thatcher, you are fired from this company.
The whole room erupted. Some people were cheering, others were still gasping with disbelief, and others still were taking pictures and videos of the whole debacle. Whitney was gobsmacked, and she looked at me with murderous intent.
Also, you should probably know that you are going to get another job tonight, the one you always wanted.
You mean I'm gonna become chief editor?
Well, not anymore. After finding out what we just found out, you won't even be able to apply for another journalism job again.
You'll be hearing from my father and my lawyer. You'll all be sorry. I swear it.
Whitney stomped out, and as she was walking out, people were booing and hissing at her. The night ended with many people approaching me and congratulating me on the speech I did, commending me for being strong.
I've been looking for some inspiration lately. I've been wanting to write a book on a topic I haven't tackled before, and I think that I found my inspiration. You've got such a powerful voice and a powerful story to tell, and I would hate for that to go to waste.
What are you saying?
I'm saying that I want you to be part of my team. You'll be able to see and experience things that you've never experienced before, because I want to write a book about you.
A book about me? Count me in. I jumped on board this opportunity with haste, and Harriet and I became best of friends. She wrote a book about me, and it garnered a lot of success. The book was about my struggles growing up and taking care of everyone around me. And although I was labeled by society as an infidel, I was more than capable and more than intellectual, because I had gotten the real test of life. I went on many book tours and interviews and podcasts discussing the overnight success of the book. Life was certainly getting better for me, and what's more, I started learning how to read and write. Before, I was ashamed that a grown woman like me wasn't able to do it, but I learned that there is no shame in not knowing. How else do we grow as humans if not through trial and error? I quickly accelerated in my classes, and it's the reason why I'm able to write this story today. As for Whitney, she reaped what she had sown, losing not just one but 2 jobs in a single day. She faced the consequences of her actions, and while it may have been a painful lesson for her, it was a necessary one. The consequences of her actions, and while it may have been a painful lesson for her, it also served as an opportunity for growth and self-reflection. I don't know where she is now, because after her debacle gained national notoriety, James had opted to get a divorce from her, finally being sick and tired of her abuse towards me and other people that she stepped on just because she felt like she could. I don't know where she is today, but I do hope that she has learned her lesson. For me, the journey towards bettering myself continues every day. I have gained recognition from my past, and now I can live a lavish and luxurious life, thanks to the practice of being humble and patient. So, to anyone who is enduring or suffering any abuse, I promise you it does get better. You have to keep fighting. And when your opportunity for a way out and a way up presents itself, you need to grab it with all of your might because you don't know where you might end up. But it's definitely going to be a blessing. About my mother? I said, she told me to divorce you. About my mother? She told me to divorce you. Hello, lovely people. I am Emily, and this is my story. I know you have heard a lot about awful mothers-in-law. However, my story is a little different. My story is going to give you hope that good mothers-in-law do exist in the world. While I was not so lucky to have a good husband, I did get an awesome mother-in-law. It was 3 years ago that I married my husband. He was my colleague in the office I was working at. Carl, my husband, has a pretty charismatic personality. Naturally, people are drawn to his charm and like him immediately. I was one of those unfortunate people who fell for his charms. Back then, I was naive and was easily influenced by his sweet talking. I was fresh out of a bad relationship and being with Carl made me happy. He was a great guy and had a good reputation in his office. Sure, he was a little flirty, but it wasn't overwhelming at all. People around him always described him as a good guy. When we went on our first date, I knew he was a good guy. He said, "I am a very family-oriented person, Emily. I know you have the same values as me. You see, my disabled mother lives with me. My dad left her after she became disabled. However, I am a good son and promised to take care of her. Family is very important to me. I am glad you said that, Carl. I love that you take care of your mother. It must be hard taking care of the entire household and balancing your work life. Oh, it's very difficult, but there's no other way. I do hire a caretaker for my mom. It's quite expensive, but I want the best for her. Anything to make her life a little easier." His thoughtfulness and immense love for his mother won me over in no time. I was my mom's caregiver before she passed away from cancer. Mother won me over in no time. I was my mom's caregiver before she passed away from cancer. So I knew exactly how taxing it might be to be responsible for another person. It just made me respect him a little more. I didn't know that he had malicious intent behind taking care of his mom. Anyway, we dated pretty steadily for 2 years. I did have a higher income than him, but I didn't mind. He didn't feel emasculated because his partner was earning more money. Again, all these just cemented my belief that he was the perfect boyfriend. During the 2 years we dated, I did meet his parents. His parents got divorced after his mother, Kate, became disabled from an accident. His father, Ted, didn't want to be stuck taking care of a disabled person. Kate had mobility issues and required a wheelchair at all times. She did get disability from the government, but it didn't help. Carl had told me everything. I felt bad for Kate and disliked Ted ever since I found out everything he had done. However, Carl was close to Ted, so I had to tolerate him anyway. Carl proposed to me shortly after I met his parents. I said yes because I thought he would be a good husband. Plus, I was in love and wanted to have a family with him.
Emily, you know my mom lives with me. I do pay for a lot of her expenses. The caregiver and regular treatment she gets actually takes up a lot of my salary. I earn less than you, so I have little savings in my name. If you do marry me, you have to accept my financial state and my mother's responsibility.
That's okay, Carl. I know what it feels like to have someone dependent on you. Kate is such a nice person, and I love her. I will have no problem living with her. She's like a mother to me.
I can understand why you like her, but living with her requires me to spend a lot of money. Are you okay with that?
Yes, Carl. I'm okay with that. I don't need any of your money. In fact, I'm thinking about helping you out and taking care of your mom. It will ease the burden on you.
Really? You don't have to, you know? But I would really appreciate it if you helped a little.
Of course I would help. As I said, she's almost like my own mother. It feels good to have a parent back after so many years. Carl kept thanking me for understanding his situation. I really meant it when I said I would take care of Kate. I would be happy to do it for him and Kate. Our wedding happened just 1 year later. I did the majority of the planning because he was busy working on a promotion. I didn't mind because I wanted him to achieve his dreams. I even paid for the majority of the wedding because I knew he had little in savings. After the wedding, Carl became an attentive and loving husband. I could see that he really cared for his mother. After the wedding, Carl became an attentive and loving husband. I could see that he really cared for his mother. Kate was also extremely loving towards me. She was always pretty excited to see me and spend time with me. I found it strange that she didn't have much of a connection with Carl, but I thought nothing of it. About 3 months after the wedding, Carl sat me down to talk about Kate. He said, "Emily, I was thinking about taking Mom to a new doctor. He's the best in the city and can help Mom better, but the treatment is going to be expensive. Can you help me out with some money?"
Sure, Carl. Just tell me what you need. You can send the bills to me directly, and I can make the payment.
Why don't you just transfer me the amount? It will be easier for me to complete the payments.
I don't like to keep pending bills. Besides, I think I will be short on this month's money for the caregiver.
Okay, Carl, just tell me the amount, and I'll send it to you. If it really helps Kate, I don't have any problem paying for the treatment.
Again, thanked me a lot and promised to pay it back. I told him there was no need for that. I simply wanted Kate to get better.
Why do you two waste money on that woman? She's a useless person and doesn't need so much pampering.
Kate will never get better, so why waste the money?
Dad, this new treatment is going to help. I just know it. Besides, Emily helps out a lot, so money is not that tight anymore.
Yes, Ted, we want to take care of her. Not everyone looks for something in return when they help out a loved one. Yeah, Ted just made a face and looked away. Carl also looked a little uncomfortable and changed the conversation. I thought his behavior was odd, but didn't comment on it. Also, I was a little skeptical about sending money directly to his account. I did trust him, but it just didn't make sense to me. After I started to contribute to Kate's expenses, Carl started to change. He became a little demanding with money requests and pulled all sorts of excuses. He appeared to be short of money every month. Slowly, he was almost taking away $1,000 from my paycheck every month. The amount was absurd, but I knew that the treatment was expensive. However, Kate wasn't showing any signs of getting better. Carl was also paying less attention to me. He came home late from work and always went straight to sleep. Helping with housework was out of the question. When I asked him about his behavior, he said, "I'm working hard for a promotion, Emily. You see how long I stay in the office. I need a break. You don't have anything to do in the house, so you might as well do the chores. You come back home earlier than me anyway."
But I have to take care of Kate now. You refuse to hire a caregiver in the evening. I'm the one who looks after your mom, now. But I have to take care of Kate now. You refuse to hire a caregiver in the evening. I am the one who looks after your mom now.
I am struggling with all the work, Carl. You need to do better.
You knew what you were getting into. I remember telling you everything. You agreed to help out with Mom. There is no reason why you are complaining now.
I can take care of your mom, Carl. But I can't be the only one who does everything. She is your mom. You need to step up too.
I have been taking care of her for so long. I need a break. Since you like her so much, you can deal with her. Now leave me alone.
With that, he stormed off to his game room. I was stunned by what he said. It was like he was a completely different person. That night, I cried a lot after he went to sleep. I was feeling overwhelmed and he wasn't helping at all. I blamed his work for making him this way. The new project was taxing, and I knew that he was working with a lot of new hires. One of these new hires was Cherry. She's equally popular in our office as Carl. They seemed to have hit it off immediately. I was slightly uncomfortable with their closeness, but I trusted my husband. I knew it was normal for him to be a little flirty, but I always thought he wasn't going to cheat. I was so wrong when I found out the truth. One day, when I was back from work, Carl sat me down and told me that he had planned a vacation. I was thrilled until he told me more.
Emily, I planned this vacation with a lot of effort. I have been preparing everything for days. But we are not going on this trip together.
I am actually taking my friends with me. It will be a small get-together with my bros. We're not taking our spouses.
What? It's been 2 years since we went somewhere, or even had a picnic. You were planning a vacation, and not even taking me with you. How is this fair? Where are you even getting the money?
Calm down, Emily. It's been a while since I have been out with the boys. Besides, it's not your concern where the money comes from.
Carl, Emily has been looking forward to the trip. You haven't been anywhere since your honeymoon. Can you reconsider a little?
Don't butt into our conversation, Mom. With your treatment, I have hardly any money to go anywhere.
But I do give you my disability benefits. Plus, I gave you my inheritance money.
You have been giving Carl your disability grants. I didn't know about this.
Shut up, Emily. You don't have to know everything. This is between me and Mom.
I was so angry that I couldn't think straight. First, he tells me he's leaving me home and going on a vacation with his friends. Then I come to know that he's taking money from Kate. My head is spinning. However, I didn't know what to say. I was already pretty pissed at how he was treating me at home. Just before he left for the trip, he gave me even worse news. He said, "I have planned a vacation with a lot of effort, but we're not going on this trip together. I am actually taking my friends with me. It will be a small get-together with my bros. We're not taking our spouses." I was already pretty pissed at how he was treating me at home. Just before he left for the trip, he gave me even worse news. He said,
Mom's caregiver won't be coming again. I've let her go. She was charging too much. I can't pay for that anymore.
"From now on, you will be taking care of her. In the morning, she can manage on her own."
You just decided that without consulting me. Why do you think I will do as you say? Kate cannot be alone in the morning.
This is ridiculous. I am already paying so much money. Now you want me to take care of Kate completely? I am not qualified to do so.
Look, I don't care how you manage. You already said she's like your mother. I'm tired of her now.
You can have her. She's just draining me financially. Mom is pretty useless anyway.
Don't talk about her that way. She's your mom. Why are you acting so weird? You don't even spend time with me anymore. I don't understand this. You've changed, Carl?
Carl wouldn't talk to me anymore, so... He just left the house and didn't return till late at night. I stayed up for him and waited. However, he just got home and went straight to bed. Kate heard our entire conversation and was pretty hurt. She also apologized for being a burden on me. I told her that she's not a burden. After a couple of days, everything was back to normal at home. Taking care of Kate was hard, but I was managing. I even shifted to work from home to help Kate out. However, things between me and Carl were still tense. The day before his trip, I had to go to the office to submit a file in person. I met Cherry on the way. She smirked at me and said,
"Hey Emily, I heard you're back at home, taking care of your mother-in-law. What a shame. The weather's great and it will be a nice trip to the beach. Good thing my weekends involve more than babysitting a disabled lady."
"What do you mean, Cherry? And don't talk about Kate that way."
Well, whatever. See you around, Emily. Carl and I are pretty busy these days. You don't need to wait for him. I'll tell him you said hi. Bye.
I didn't like the way Cherry spoke to me. My senses were immediately on alert. Her words also caught in my head. I knew something was going on between them. I went home without seeing Carl. I didn't feel like seeing his face. When he came home that night, he seemed excessively giddy. The vacation was really making him very happy. Cherry's words kept playing in my head, so I decided to snoop a little. What I found on his phone stunned me. He and Cherry were the ones going for the seaside vacation. There was no plan with his guy friends. It was a getaway with his mistress. I scrolled through the messages and found that he had been cheating on me with Cherry for 6 months. He even sent her money and bought her gifts with the money I was giving him. I was crushed. I didn't want to believe it. I quickly shut the phone so that Carl wouldn't find out. After Carl left the next day, I let my emotions get the best of me. I cried the entire day and kept thinking about my life. I made the mistake of marrying a cheater. All this time, I was hoping Carl would go back to his loving self. He was just turning out to be even worse. He was off on a romantic vacation with his mistress while I looked after his mother. Kate found me upset and crying in my bedroom. She sat me down and told me to talk to her. I said,
Carl is cheating on me, Kate. He left to have a vacation with his mistress. I found out yesterday. I don't know what to do.
I didn't stop him because it was useless. He'd already been with her. I don't want to see his face again.
Oh my god, Emily. I'm so sorry. I can't believe he did this. This is not how I raised my son.
Day by day, he's turning into his father. You need to do something, Emily.
What will I do, Kate? You know, I've been giving him money for your treatment. Turns out he was spending that on his mistress. I feel humiliated.
You were sending him money? Why would you do that, Emily? I didn't start any new treatment.
In fact, he didn't take me to a doctor for an entire year. When we go out, he simply drives around and goes to a restaurant. He eats out with his friends and leaves me in the car.
So he hasn't been helping you at all?
No, Emily. He just wants to take my money and spend it on himself. I didn't know he was also taking your money.
I'm so sorry, Emily. You have had to sacrifice a lot because of me. You need to divorce Carl. He's leeching off of you. Don't let him disrespect you like me.
Don't say that, Kate. I like taking care of you. I love you like my own mom. After meeting you, I felt like I had my mom back.
As for Carl, don't worry. I have a plan. I will wreck his life. I assured Kate that I was fine. I wasn't gonna let Carl take advantage of me. I am also going to make Cherry pay for messing with my marriage. I had already taken screenshots of the proof of cheating from Carl's mobile. This trip will be the last vacation he takes in a while. The first thing I did the next day was to contact a divorce lawyer. I met with a good lawyer and gave him all the proof I had. I was also going to sue Cherry for alienation of affection. With the evidence I had, my lawyer was confident that I would win. He advised me against talking to human resources before the divorce. If Carl loses his job, he may demand alimony. My lawyer drew the divorce papers before Carl came back. When Carl returned from his vacation, I was ready and waiting for him. Kate was also present. He looked like a deer caught in headlights. I calmly sat him down and said, "Carl, we need to talk." He looked like a deer caught in headlights. I calmly sat him down and said, "I know you've been cheating on me, Carl. I have all the proof. I have drafted divorce papers to make things easier for you. I'm leaving you, Carl. You can go stay with your side piece."
I know you've been cheating on me, Carl. I have all the proof. I have drafted divorce papers to make things easier for you.
I am leaving you, Carl. You can go stay with your side piece.
What? No, you have zero proof of my cheating. There is no way I'm signing those papers.
I have screenshots from your mobile, Carl. You cannot deny it. Plus, I have proof you were sending her money from our joint account.
You think I was dumb enough not to check that?
Emily, listen to me. You cannot leave. Let's talk. You need to think about it. Mom needs you more than me anyway.
Who will take care of her if you leave? I can't afford to do it.
I know what you've been doing with my money, Carl. I also know that Kate has been giving you her disability grants.
She is the one who said I need to divorce you. I would have done it anyway, since you've been taking advantage of me. I will take care of Kate. She's not your problem anymore.
She's right. I don't want to stay married to a loser like you. You're even worse than your father.
At least he didn't cheat on me. You can find somewhere else to stay. This is my house and you are not welcome here anymore. Emily can stay if she wants.
No, you can't do this to your son. This house would be mine when you die. I am the future owner of this place. Emily needs to move out if she leaves me.
Absolutely not. I will never give you this house. You have not only stolen from Emily, but also from me.
You say goodbye to my money as well. I will give you exactly 1 month to leave. The eviction notice is in your room.
No, you can't do this to me. Where will I go?
Carl just kept begging us to forgive him. He knew that he had messed up and we had the upper hand. Additionally, he lost whatever money he was milking out of us. He even cried when I handed him the divorce papers. He was begging me to reconsider.
Carl called his father, who berated me for leaving him. Kate simply took the phone and gave him an earful instead.
After 1 month, Carl was forced to move in with his dad. His mistress was also becoming agitated because Carl had stopped spending money on her. I pressed him for the divorce and threatened to tell his boss about the affair. He got scared and signed over the papers. However, I wasn't gonna stop there. I still went ahead and sent the proof of the affair to his boss. Suffice it to say, both of them lost their jobs. I was on vacation with Kate when it happened. I missed the drama, but was glad I wouldn't have to see them anymore. I also went ahead with the alienation of affection suit against Cherry. They showed up to the hearing and looked like shit. She even begged me to withdraw the suit because she and Carl were out of jobs. I simply told her that was her punishment for messing up a marriage. I still stay with Kate and look after her. She will be my family even if Carl is not. Kate had even talked about leaving the house to me. She will be my family even if Carl isn't. Kate had even talked about leaving the house to me. I haven't accepted, but she is adamant. I have gone back to the dating scene and been on some dates. I still haven't met the one, but I am really looking forward to the future.